Hey everyone, and welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with another update coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got a ton of big news to share with all of you today. Today's date is August 14th, 2025, and it's Thursday. Welcome back to the channel, everyone, and I hope you're all having a wonderful day today. We've got a lot of news to cover with this war update, so let's go ahead and jump right into this. We'll start out with a huge story out of Russia's Volgograd region as overnight Ukrainian drones struck the Volgograd oil refinery, which is a refinery that has been hit before in the past. We've had reports of at least 3 refineries in Russia that have shut down over the past week, and probably about 4 or 5 in total that have been hit by Ukrainian drones as well. So here's this new report here on your screen. Russia's Volgograd oil refinery burns massively after Ukrainian attack. The refinery processes over 15 million metric tons of oil every year, amounting to 5.6% of Russia's refining capacity, producing diesel, gasoline, and aviation fuel, crucial for Russian military logistics. So you can see here in the picture a massive fire at this facility. And very interesting, we have a lot of pictures coming out today from this facility, but unfortunately not too much video footage. But we do have confirmation that this oil refinery was burning even throughout the day today. And even though the governor of that region was claiming they started to put the fire out immediately, it's actually still burning today. So I'll show you that video footage here in just a little bit. And we'll talk more about this story here in just a moment. We also have information of a potential Ukrainian drone that crashed into a residential building in the Rostov region just today, and reports of at least one person being injured in that strike. Okay, this is inside of Russia. Very interesting. A massive Ukrainian drone just slammed into a residential building. And we usually don't see this coming from Ukraine. So I was thinking maybe this was some sort of provocative action coming from the Russians so they can try to derail the negotiations tomorrow with Trump and Putin. We'll be talking about that also. Yeah, we had a massive strike in Rostov today. So we'll talk about that as well. And then, yeah, I've got numerous details regarding tomorrow's upcoming meeting between Trump and Putin. They're going to be meeting in Alaska. So we're going to be sharing some details regarding that story as well. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. Let's hop on over here to X with Drone Bomber. It says approximate flight routes of our UAVs. Red arrow indicates direction of strike UAVs. All route information is based on Russian sources. So here's the daily map coming out from Drone Bomber, showing Ukrainian drones entering into Russian territory. You can see a lot of them were attacking Crimea as well, especially near like Sevastopol on the southwestern side of the Crimean Peninsula. Not sure exactly what was being attacked in Crimea. We actually don't have any reports today of strikes in Crimea, and it looks to be the most major part of the attack from Ukraine last night. But aside from that, you can see drones heading this direction through the Rostov Oblast on over to the Volgograd Oblast, which is where we have this oil refinery that was struck overnight by Ukrainian drones. Some drones also heading up here through the Donetsk Oblast, up northwest into Russian territory. Not sure exactly what was being targeted up here, but the only major strike we know of today is going to be in the Volgograd Oblast, right down here on the southern side of it with that oil refinery. We'll talk more about that. Here's some information from Astra. It says in Volgograd, oil refinery attacked, fuel spills and burns according to governor. The incident likely involves the Lukoil Volgograd Neft Rabotka. Sorry guys, that's such a long word. I mean, try to pronounce that one. Pretty crazy word there. Refinery which has been targeted by drones multiple times in the past. It says, quote, last night Russia's Ministry of Defense Air Defense forces repelled a massive UAV attack on the Volgograd region. Falling debris caused a fuel spill and fire at the Volgograd oil refinery. Fire crews promptly began extinguishing the blaze. Preliminary reports indicate no casualties, the regional governor said. So the regional governor of the Volgograd Oblast reporting on this strike here. We can see 2 major fires that broke out, and wait till you see this NASA firms map showing the massive fire here at this facility. I wouldn't be surprised it's going to be shut down here very soon. As it most likely already is today, because the fire is actually still ongoing almost 24 hours later. So there's a little picture coming out somebody was able to take of this oil refinery on fire. All right, now from Ukraine battle map, take a look at this. Situation at Lukoil oil refinery in Volgograd Oblast struck by Ukrainian UAVs. Check out this fire map indicating massive fires all over this facility. So this kind of like square right here is the bulk of the refinery, and it looks like 50%, maybe more of it, caught fire. There's a little bit more section of this oil refinery that doesn't look like it was attacked over here, but the large major portion of it, just massive fire. And I wouldn't be surprised it was hit by multiple Ukrainian UAVs. So we can see major damage here that's going to be caused to this oil refinery, which also explains why we see this thing still burning all the way through today. There's probably just so many fires that broke out over here, they can't even contain it. And again, we know 3 oil refineries inside Russia have all been shut down already. These are 3 refineries connected to the company called Rosneft, which is the second largest oil company inside of Russia. And Ukraine, over the last week or week and a half, has struck multiple other oil refineries. 3 of them connected to that same company have already declared shutdown due to Ukrainian drone strikes. So this could be yet another refinery to add to that list. We'll find out here very soon. Now here's that video footage from Military News UA. As of now, the fire at the Lukoil oil refinery in Volgograd continues after the UAV attacks. Look at that, massive fire from that facility over there, and even during the day, it is still burning, and they have not been able to put out the flames. So I'm expecting to hear very soon that it's going to be shut down once we actually get this fire put out and they assess the situation. Now from Vicegrad 24, the moment a huge drone struck a residential building in Rostov, Russia. At least one person was reported injured and several apartment buildings were damaged. Okay, so allegedly this is a Ukrainian drone. Now, if you look at that, some of you might look at that and be like, that looks like a small plane. Well, Ukraine has some drones that can actually carry some small glide bombs. I think like a Fab 250, I think is what they can carry. A 250 kilogram bomb on the bottom of them. So it's like a small aircraft is what it looks like, but it's actually unmanned and it's a drone. And as far as I know, I think these things can go up to like 1,500 kilometers or further into Ukraine, into Russia. We have seen these go deep into Russia before. So I want you guys to see this real quick. Take a look.
Беспилотник, глянь. Глянь, хуярит в дом, смотри. Глянь, хуярит в дом, блядь. Сука.
All right, so clearly a pretty large drone with a massive explosion when it crashes right here into the side of this building, and I'm not sure exactly what this drone was targeting. Is there some sort of connection to Russia's military here? We're not 100% sure yet, but to me, what it looks like is a residential building, and Ukraine doesn't typically do this, so it made me wonder if maybe this drone was actually being suppressed by electronic warfare or whatnot, or maybe it was just going down because it was maybe damaged or something. It was looking like it was kind of tilting a little bit there just before it crashed, so not sure if it was just changing its trajectory of where it wants to hit, or if maybe it was being suppressed. We don't really know yet. But here's another video as well from Maria Drutska. Something going on in Rostov. A powerful explosion has been reported in the city center. Missile alert has been declared. So I believe this is that same explosion from that drone, and this is video footage coming out from Rostov also. This is just right next door to Ukraine's Donetsk and Luhansk regions where this strike took place. So again, don't know too much details on this, but all we know is what appears to be a Ukrainian drone that has crashed into a residential building. This is really rare. We don't typically see Ukraine doing this deliberately. There's really no reason for them to do that other than to go after military targets. There was reports of somebody being injured, possibly others that could have been hurt as well. Lots of damage reported to that building. So if I get more details on that strike, I'll let you guys know at a later time. But very interesting coming out today, especially right as tomorrow Trump and Putin are supposed to be meeting. So I'm not sure if Russia's going to use that as leverage in this meeting tomorrow and say Ukraine attacks civilians or whatnot. But I mean, we see Russia doing that pretty much every day inside of Ukrainian territory. So now let's talk about this upcoming meeting tomorrow between Trump and Putin. So here's a report from Nexta. Russian presidential aide Yuri Ushakov says the U.S.-Russia summit will begin at around 10:30 p.m. Kiev time on August 15th. According to Ushakov, the meeting will start with a one-on-one conversation between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump, with interpreters present, after which the delegations will join the talks. The main topic will be resolving the war in Ukraine, including taking into account the discussions held in the Kremlin with Witkoff. In addition, the U.S. and Russian presidents will discuss bilateral economic cooperation and global security issues. Both delegations will include 5 people besides the presidents. The Russian side will consist of Ushakov, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, Finance Minister Anton Siluanov, Defense Minister Andrei Belousov, and Russian Direct Investment Fund head Kirill Dmitriev. Following the talks, Putin and Trump will hold a press conference. Meanwhile, a Russian Ilyushin 76 aircraft has already departed from Moscow for Alaska. So yeah, we had this Ilyushin 76 aircraft actually taken off from Moscow and allegedly is heading over to Anchorage, Alaska. So this could be carrying possibly the Russian delegation. I don't think it would be carrying Putin as well, but maybe the Russian delegation and some other security officials could be on this flight heading for Anchorage right now, as tomorrow they're supposed to be meeting. So looks like this meeting is going to be happening and taking place. Now for military news UA, Trump will demand an unconditional ceasefire from Putin. He told European leaders about this ahead of the French Foreign Ministry reports. Meanwhile, NBC News, writes that the United States will not negotiate with the Russian Federation on ending the war without Ukraine. Europe, Vance assured Zelensky of this. All right, so we heard about this yesterday, actually, that Trump allegedly was only going to be trying to shoot for a ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia. We'll see if he's going to be able to achieve that. But again, we're hearing information that Trump is not going to be negotiating any like transfer of territory or anything like that on behalf of Ukraine. Ukraine and Russia will be doing that themselves once we get an actual ceasefire. Now for Max 25, it says U.S. announces delegation for talks in Alaska. The American delegation will include U.S. President Donald Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Okay, so this is going to be the lineup with Trump and his representatives that will be there for the U.S. delegation to meet with the Russian delegation tomorrow in Alaska. Now for Max 25, the governor of Belgorod. Take a look at this. This is off of Telegram, actually. It says the Bars, Belgorod, and Orlon units will be engaged in mine clearance after the end of the CBO. And it says, quote, tomorrow everything will end. We are talking about the SVO, which is the special military operation that Russia calls for their invasion of Ukraine, and we will begin a major demining work, said Governor Vyacheslav Vladkov about the possible future of the detachments. Okay, so this is the governor of Belgorod, the Belgorod Oblast, inside of Russia, just over the border from Ukraine's Kharkiv region. Okay, up in northeastern Ukraine. So allegedly, this governor here stating today that he's expecting the war to end tomorrow, which is very interesting. And he's saying that they're going to be starting major demining work, that they're getting prepared to start doing that already once this war comes to an end. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think tomorrow we're going to see a major breakthrough in talks between Trump and Putin, and possibly a meeting between Trump, Putin, and maybe even Zelensky as well? And next week we could have like a trilateral meeting. We have been reporting that as well. Could be possible. But yeah, let me know if you think we're going to see a breakthrough and this war actually will come to an end. Or do you think it's not going to happen? Do you think this war is going to continue and talks will fail tomorrow? Now from Kyiv Independent, U.S. will support Ukraine's security guarantees, but no NATO membership, Macron says. The U.S. is prepared to provide Ukraine with security guarantees once peace is established, but NATO will not be part of that process, French President Macron said August 13th. So yesterday evening, this is allegedly when Macron said this, that apparently Ukraine will be receiving security guarantees, possibly from European partners, maybe even from the U.S. directly. I'm not sure yet. But according to NATO membership, it doesn't look like Ukraine's going to be having that as an option. So not sure exactly what the final details will be. We know that Ukraine really wants to get into NATO, and numerous times we've heard from the Secretary Generals, the former Secretary General of NATO, and also the current NATO Secretary General, Mark Rutte. He stated numerous times that Ukraine will eventually get into NATO, and so many European leaders have said that. So not sure how the NATO situation is going to work out, but as far as security guarantees, we're hearing a positive side to that. Now, Max 25, again, Zelensky was not invited to the Alaska summit because Trump feared he could derail the talks, according to Wall Street Journal. Initially, European officials insisted on direct representation at the meeting, which would include Rubio and Lavrov, proposing Rutte or another European leader, as well as Zelensky as participants. However, after telephone conversations between Merz and Trump, the European side dropped this demand. So it looks like Europe wanted Ukraine to be participating, and maybe some more European leaders involved in this meeting in Alaska tomorrow with Trump and Putin. And allegedly, after Trump had spoken to European leaders, I guess they changed their demands on that. They were like, okay, we won't have Europe or Ukraine involved in these talks. Let's just have a bilateral discussion between the U.S. and Russia tomorrow. So, interesting story coming out today that was reported by the Wall Street Journal. Now, for Max 25 again, the U.S. will contribute to ensuring security guarantees for Ukraine developed by the Coalition of the Willing. The head of the French Foreign Ministry quotes Trump. So, allegedly, Trump may have stated that the U.S. will contribute to ensuring security guarantees for Ukraine, but this is actually going to come from the Coalition of the Willing. So, that includes like potentially France, the UK, maybe Germany, Poland, some other nations inside of Europe. So, most likely, if Ukraine does get security guarantees, it's going to be coming from European partners, not so much from the U.S., is what I'm thinking. I doubt the U.S. is going to give security guarantees directly over to Ukraine. Not sure if Trump is going to be willing to do that, but most likely European partners will. We're just not sure exactly what type of security guarantees they're going to give to Ukraine just yet. Now, we also had a report today of Trump speaking to reporters or the press, and here's his post from Kiev Post. And it says, ending the war tomorrow isn't going to happen. I don't think we can achieve that right away, says Trump. Here's more of what the U.S. president told reporters. He said, I put the chances of a meeting with Putin failing at 25%. I plan to call Zelensky to arrange a second meeting after the Alaska summit with Putin. We're looking at 3 possible locations. Putin and I will have a dispute over borders and territories. He knows I'm the toughest opponent he's ever dealt with. Putin will agree to a deal, and the threat of sanctions against Russia has probably played a role in Moscow's push for the meeting. So it looks like Trump is somewhat optimistic. It's weird because, like, one minute he'll say he's going to be able to end the war, next minute he says he can't. He's kind of all over the place at times, but he puts the chances of the meeting failing at 25%. So that's fairly low. So apparently he believes that the meeting's going to be pretty positive, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. And aside from that, he thinks that Putin will agree to a deal. He was saying that today. Let me know if you guys think if Russia's going to do that. And especially after you see this statement from World Source News 24/7, breaking, Russia states it has no intention of signing agreements at the Putin-Trump meeting on Friday. Numerous sources were showing this today on X that apparently Putin is not going to be signing any agreements. So that makes me think that we're not going to see a ceasefire tomorrow. And if that's the main reason why Trump is holding this meeting with Putin is to push for a ceasefire, well, then what's the whole point? So Trump did state if the meeting doesn't go well tomorrow, there's probably not going to be any further meetings, meaning no trilateral meeting with Zelensky at one point being involved also. So we'll really have to see what happens tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be a very big day. Now, Max 25 again. Trump, I don't think we can get an immediate ceasefire. If it is a bad meeting with Putin, I will not call anyone. That's also allegedly what Trump stated today, okay? So by him saying I will not call anyone, I'm thinking that means I won't call Zelensky and set up another meeting later for like a trilateral meeting or anything like that. So pretty much he's just going to be very unhappy with the situation if we don't see the results being positive in favor of ending this war or at least getting a ceasefire. In my opinion, I don't think we're going to see a ceasefire tomorrow. I think if anything, there's just going to be talks and that's about it. Because we've seen time and time again, Putin is not serious to committing to a ceasefire with Ukraine. I mean, over a month ago, I think almost 2 months ago now, roughly, Ukraine has already agreed to a 30-day ceasefire with Russia, and not at one point have they come out and agreed to that or even stated that they were open to it. They just say that they're open to discussions, and that's it, resolving problems with this war. So yeah, very interesting statement from Trump today. We'll have to see how things work out tomorrow. So now I'm going to give you guys an update regarding the Donetsk region of Ukraine. We've been talking about this, that the Russians made a breakthrough and busted through Ukrainian lines in the southeastern side of Ukraine. So here's an update from the 1st Corps Azov of the National Guard of Ukraine. This was the corps that was deployed, one of the corps, I think there was actually several that were deployed over to the Donetsk region. But here's a statement from them today. It says, as a result of actions undertaken by the 1st Corps Azov of the National Guard of Ukraine and its subordinate and adjacent units, the enemy has suffered significant losses. Over the past 48 hours of combat, 151 invaders have been eliminated with the Corps area of responsibility. More than 70 have been wounded. In addition, 8 Russian service members have been taken prisoner. The operation is ongoing. Action is in the vicinity, of settlements within the area of responsibility of the Azov Corps and the Donetsk Operational Tactical Group have been planned and are currently being implemented. So, based on what I'm hearing here, it sounds like things are going good for the First Corps Azov of the National Guard of Ukraine that has been deployed to counter the Russian forces that broke through near the settlement of Dobropilya. This is around where Pokrovsk is at as well. It's a major transport rail hub city for the Ukrainians. We've been talking about that for months now. And allegedly, the Russians have been cut off and stopped. Okay, you can see here 151 invaders have been eliminated, 70 wounded, 8 also taken prisoners. So it looks like they are making some progress here. And I want to show you this also from Tomi. According to both Ukrainian and Russian sources, Russian breakthrough with motorbikes near Pokrovsk is becoming a disaster for the Russians. Russian sources confirm that their troops in the salient are isolated from the main forces and cut from all supplies. There are also POWs. So look at this map right here. And it might be kind of hard to see. It's a little cut off, but I think it says I'm not sure what that says. The fighters who broke through. I don't know if it says SS fighters. Kind of hard to read that. 16 kilometers to Dobropilya are sitting without evacuation, food, water, and under attack from Ukrainian armed forces from all sides. So when I showed you guys this map the other day, this is kind of this little wedge that the Russians were able to form when they broke out from the main defense lines over here near Dobropilya. They busted out and formed like a little wedge and split off in two directions. Allegedly, the Ukrainians have been able to cut that off through the center based on some of these reports today. And maybe these soldiers, these Russian troops that broke through, apparently using mostly motorbikes. It wasn't even really like a mechanized assault with tanks or anything like that. That's apparently how they broke through, was using motorbikes. And a lot of them were really just armed with guns, and that's it. So a lot of these soldiers allegedly could be cut off over here inside the Donetsk region. It could be maybe hundreds or thousands. I don't really know yet. And if they are cut off, they're probably going to have to surrender. If not, they're going to be eliminated as they've been cut off from the main branch of troops over here in the Donetsk region. So interesting map coming out today. Can't completely confirm this yet, but this could be a possibility. All right, so now for more translated. Western media report that Zelensky has already arrived in London, where he is scheduled to meet with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Okay, so yeah, this is where Zelensky's at today. He's actually with Keir Starmer meeting in London. They're discussing lots of different things, security guarantees for Ukraine. They're talking about drone development inside of Ukraine or drone production, just numerous different things they are discussing today. So Zelensky met with Keir Starmer on Downing Street today. And this was kind of a picture of them meeting, okay? So that's where he's at today. If I get some updates on their situation, I'll let you guys know in a later video today. So now for more translated again, Ukraine has brought back 84 people, 33 service members, and 51 civilians. Among them are prisoners from 2014, 2016, and 2017, including defenders of Mariupol. Today's exchange is notable for freeing Ukrainians detained in occupied territories even before the full-scale invasion. One man spent 4,013 days in captivity, having been taken in Donetsk in 2014. Those freed include 3 women from Donetsk and Luhansk regions, one a primary school teacher imprisoned in 2019, and a 27-year-old man illegally detained in 2016 at just 18 years old. So wonderful to hear, guys. Looks like the Ukrainians were able to swap with the Russians once again. 84 Ukrainian prisoners, 484 Russian prisoners. So these are some of the pictures coming out showing these men, and it looks like maybe even some women also being returned back to Ukraine. And yeah, we can see some photos here of them coming back as they got off the bus. And here's the women actually that were freed as well. Isn't that crazy? One man spent 4,013 days in captivity since 2014. Imagine being in Russian prisons for that long. Thankfully, he is still alive, and hopefully he is healthy and can make it back home to his family. I'm sure his family is very excited to see him. So there's just some new photos today coming out from Ukraine. Very good to see that. Now for Max 25 again. Satellite images of the results of strike on oil pumping station Uneka in Bryansk region, according to Dnipro Ozent. Near the support pumping station, there are large traces of fire. The station cannot function. It has a capacity to pump 60 million tons of raw material annually. So we talked about this yesterday. The Uneka oil pumping station in the Bryansk region, just over the border of northern Ukraine, near the Cherniv region. Okay, we had this strike that Ukraine carried out. Allegedly, could have been missiles or drones that struck this oil pumping station. And this oil pumping station is connected to the Druzhba oil pipeline, which comes out of Russia through Belarus and Ukraine and heads on over to Eastern Europe to countries like Hungary, Slovakia, Czech Republic, Germany, Poland. Lots of nations receive oil from Russia through this pipeline. And when this oil pumping station goes down, that means a lot of the pressure is going to be lost within these lines of these oil lines, and they're not going to be able to transport oil anymore. So it's looking like we had major damage here. You can see right here, we had a massive fire that broke out. And we were hearing on the southwestern side of this facility, which is right in this location, which is where it got hit at. Okay, so these are just some satellite images indicating the damage of that, and possibly is shut down at this time. Now, it's interesting because we haven't heard really any other countries complaining about this that could be affected by the supplies of Russian oil. So I'm not sure if it's completely shut down yet, but according to this information, it says the station cannot function. So there could be at least a delay. Maybe they're going to have to get it repaired. Now from Savchenko Volodymyr, British military chiefs have given up on the idea of 30,000 strong contingent to protect Ukraine's ports and cities, according to the Times. They are now said to be proposing a more realistic mission involving air reassurance over western Ukraine, training support to the Ukrainian military, and the clearance of mines for the Black Sea. Interesting report today. It says Britain plans scaled back reassurance force in Ukraine. So this was months back. I want to say 3 to 4 months ago, we were hearing that the UK, along with like France and some other nations in Europe, were preparing to deploy tens of thousands potentially of troops into Ukraine to ensure their sovereignty. If we happen to get a ceasefire in this war, they were going to be deploying them to certain cities and key ports in Ukraine to protect Ukraine if Russia were to ever attack, and also to kind of deter from Russia from ever attacking them again. And it looks like the coalition of the willing is not willing, so willing, I guess it's kind of weird to say that. The coalition of the willing is not so willing to do that anymore. Apparently, they don't want to send 30,000 troops into Ukraine anymore, or really any. For the most part, it looks like they're more open to having some sort of air reassurance over Western Ukraine and also training Ukraine's military, probably in Western Ukraine as well, just giving them some other different types of reassurance to ensure their sovereignty. So very interesting how that's going to play out. But this was being reported by the Times today. Okay, now from next up, North Korea plans to send additional troops to Russia, Budanov says. This involves about 6,000 soldiers as well as 50 to 100 units of equipment, including Cheonma D tanks and a BTR-80 armored personnel carriers, allegedly for engineering work. Engineering work, that's interesting. I mean, the North Koreans have said that before. You know, they send engineers over to Russia to help them out, but then we were hearing reports of North Korean soldiers fighting on the front line inside of the Kursk region. Most likely, if these soldiers are going over to Russia, some of them will end up on the front line, but allegedly it's stating here for engineering work. I mean, what do they need armored personnel carriers for and tanks if they're just doing engineering work? So interesting information. This was what Kirill Budanov was reporting today. He's the head of the HUR, which is their main intelligence directorate in Ukraine. So allegedly, the North Koreans could be transferring more troops and equipment to the Russian army here very soon. Not good news to hear there. Now, Megatron Ron just in, U.S. threatens India with more tariffs. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says we've put secondary tariffs on Indians for buying Russian oil. And I could see if things don't go well, then sanctions or secondary tariffs could go up. Okay, so we've got Scott Bessent today. This is the U.S. Treasury Secretary threatening India again with more tariffs that if these talks don't go well tomorrow, possibly India could get hit with more tariffs. And I think that's maybe what we're going to see. If Trump does respond, maybe he's going to increase tariffs onto India. Will he put tariffs onto China? It's really hard to say. I'm not sure if he's going to do that with China. I can't see that. I mean, China does have a lot of leverage against the U.S., and maybe that's why he's been holding off. I mean, just the other day, Trump signed a 90-day extension on tariff increases for China while they are continuing to try to negotiate with China. So it seems like, Trump is a little worried or concerned about putting tariffs on China, so I'm not sure if we'll see that, but India is a very big possibility, and we have been seeing a lot of pressure being put onto them recently. As far as I know, they've got 50% tariffs right now they're paying the U.S. in response for purchasing Russian oil, so we could see a response here on India again soon from the U.S. Now from Liskovka, air defense forces of Ukraine shot down or suppressed 24 Russian UAVs. The Russians also attacked with 2 S-300 and 400 anti-aircraft guided missiles, 45 Shahed strike UAVs, and various types of imitator drones. There were 21 UAVs hit at 12 locations. So look at these numbers, just every day, right around 40 to 50 in total munitions going into Ukraine from the Russian side, and just very little attacks. And we haven't heard any reports of people being injured so much inside of Ukraine. That is very good to see, but we know a lot of that is due to the negotiations right now. Putin's not trying not to upset Trump. And, Russia doesn't want to get hit with more sanctions. They're already suffering heavily right now. So, yeah, really a lot is going to rely on what happens tomorrow. We'll see how things go between Trump and Putin. But there you go, 47 munitions in total going into Ukraine. It looks like they shot down a good majority of them. Now, from Kiev Independent, these are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of August 14th, according to the Armed Forces of Ukraine. And here's our final update. Russia's losses as of August 14th. 990 troops, 3 AFVs, 191 vehicles and fuel tanks, 5 tanks, 29 artillery systems, 191 UAVs, 1 MLRS, and it looks like that is it. So once again, another MLRS being destroyed. This is a multiple launch rocket system. We've been seeing at least 1 or 2 of those being destroyed for like 3 to 4 consecutive days now, so that's good to see from the Ukrainian side. Aside from that, artillery systems about average numbers, tanks, AFVs still about normal as well. Vehicles and fuel tanks up a lot today. We're usually seeing about 100 or so, almost 200 destroyed over the last 24 hours. And troop losses about the same as well. We usually see about 900 to 1,000 there on average. So yeah, guys, I want to thank you very much for being here for today's update on August 14th, 2025. And today is Thursday. So thank you so much for tuning in. And let's see what happens tomorrow with this meeting. I'm very curious to see what unfolds from that. We'll probably get more details coming out today regarding this upcoming meeting between Trump and Putin in Alaska tomorrow on Friday. So yeah, guys, have a good day out there, and thanks so much for tuning in. Let me know what you think about all these details down below in the comment section. But that's going to be it for today's update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.